Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And on this segment of the show, I have family law attorney Mario Blanch. Now, Mario is the owner of Blanch Esq, and he's calling in all the way from West New York. Mario, who is considered to be a leader in the area of family law, will be talking to you today about divorce. It's not personal. That's his topic for today. So it sounds really interesting, and I can't wait to hear what he has to share with us today. So if you are one of those many unfortunate divorcing couples in the West New York area, you might want to down tools, take a break, log out of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or anything else you might be doing. Grab a notepad and pen so you can take some notes and listen in to what Mario has to share with us. So with that said, let's not keep him waiting any longer. Welcome to the show, Mario.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me here today, and I appreciate the time that you're giving me, and I am happy to be here.
And we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day, Mario. We know how busy you are. So with that said, let's make the best use of our time. Can you briefly describe what types of people you serve and the various types of situations they find themselves in when they reach out to you for your help?
Well, I service a lot of different individuals. My practice has a large component that deals with family work. And when I say family work, everything from child support to child custody issues to parenting time to full-fledged divorce and, unfortunately, oftentimes domestic violence. So that's what we do, and oftentimes those are the situations that they do find themselves in, which can be very difficult situations for families.
Okay, so with that said, and keeping in mind that anything you do share with us today, Mario, is not legal advice or legal assistance. I'm pretty sure that there are many misconceptions out there that you've come across in the time that you've been a family law attorney. However, what's the most common misconception that you'd like to share with our listeners today?
One of the most common misconceptions that I think I'd like to share with the listeners is most people think that divorce is really this methodology where the judge or the court system cares about who did what. And that's why the topic of my conversation is don't take it personal. The judicial system doesn't really care who did what. Particularly here in New Jersey, we have what's called a no-fault system. The no-fault system basically says that we don't care if you were a bad husband, we don't care if you were a bad wife, we don't care if there was infidelity. We're going to treat this similar to a business partnership. And people have the misconception, well, he was a really bad husband and therefore I deserve more by way of divorce. Or she was a really bad wife, she was unfaithful, and therefore I deserve more. And unfortunately, it's a big misconception. And I often tell my clients right from the start, you can't take the situation personally because the law doesn't look at it as personal. The law looks at it as a very black and white issue where they're just trying to separate two people from the bonds of matrimony. So that's the biggest misconception, is that the law actually cares about who did what and when and where. And it's something I try to dispel early on when I retain a client.
Right. So the word fair doesn't really come into play, right?
Well, it comes into play insofar as it comes to dividing assets. The court will divide the assets in a way that it finds fair, but it's not going to look at the conduct of the parties when it divides the assets. So it's not going to look at to say, well, husband, you did bad things to wife, and therefore wife deserves more money. Or wife, you were unfaithful to husband, and therefore husband deserves more money. the law really doesn't look at it that way. It really just looks at it from a very black and white financial perspective. We're going to divide the assets in the way we deem most fair.
Okay, so based on what you just shared with us then, Mario, and keeping your client's confidentiality in mind, of course, please share an example of how you've helped someone who came to you with that misconception. They believe that the courts would care about their particular situation, and what kind of transformational results you were able to gain for them.
Well, very often a client will come in here to my office and they will advise me, well, my husband, he's not a good husband. He's had extramarital affairs. That's usually the sticking point that causes a lot of emotional heartache, particularly in divorce. My husband had an extramarital affair.
Right.
I want to hurt him legally as much as I can. And unfortunately, when you start with that misconception, the client often, number one, they want revenge. And they have to understand that divorce is not about revenge. Divorce is about, number one, it's about it's a very sad situation. It's about dissolving a family, but it's also about a financial situation. This couple has obtained assets over the years. They've obtained property. They've obtained money, bank accounts, and we have to find an equitable way to dissolve these things. So generally when a client comes in, the very first thing I do is, particularly when they're angry, I make it very clear to them, this is not about revenge. This is not a personal situation, although it is a very personal situation to the individual. They have to understand that legally it's not personal. And once I'm able to get down to the basics of the assets, the children, if there are children, alimony, issues that can be quantified either by time or through money, we're usually able to streamline the divorce. I think, unfortunately, a lot of divorces aren't streamlined, and there's a lot of animosity and fighting because the parties do want revenge. They do take it personal. So I find that my clients, we tend to have good results because I tend to give them reasonable expectations, and I tend to keep their expectations legitimate. I don't want them going for revenge. I don't want them going to try to hurt the other party. I want them to understand what the law is and what the law isn't. And over the years, we've been able to succeed in that area.
Today's topic is divorce. It's not personal. Now, with that in mind then, Mario, and for those divorcing couples who are wanting to know more, what's the most common but unknown pitfall they absolutely must and need to avoid, no matter what their situation is, no matter how they feel? What's the most common pitfall out there?
The biggest pitfall, and I'm coming full circle now, the biggest pitfall that parties have to be aware of is they have to, and this is why you hire an attorney.
Right.
They have to try to keep their emotions out of the situation. And that's why an attorney is necessary. An attorney is able to look at it from a very neutral perspective. Granted, as an attorney, I advocate for my clients, but I'm able to see the situation from a different perspective than the client. So the biggest pitfall clients have is they get very emotional. They particularly get very emotional about minor things. As funny as it may sound, I had a divorce a few years back where the parties were fighting over a music collection. And they were fighting over an extensive music collection, but I sat down with my client and I explained to him, we can fight over the music collection or we can fight over the value of the music collection. So what we did, we had this extensive music collection appraised. Once it was appraised, we were able to give it a quantifiable value, and we were able to get money for what the music collection was worth. But people have an emotional attachment to things. The client originally wanted to fight over the actual music collection, but the music collection can be replaced. It's an asset that can be replaced with money. So keeping emotions out of things is the biggest pitfall that most individuals have. If they're able to keep a neutral perspective and keep a level head, their divorces will go through much smoother rather than they start fighting over all sorts of things. I've had clients fight over the couch because it was their favorite sofa, silverware. You'd be surprised what people want to fight about. And at the end of the day, most of these things can be easily replaced but for the emotions attached to it. So you have to take the emotions out of things when handling a divorce.
That's that's quite a valid point there, because I'm thinking, for example, that example that you just named, fighting over a couch. When you look at, I've got no idea what your hourly rates are, but a couch is replaceable, and maybe after 2 or 3 sessions with you, the money they spent with you arguing over the couch, they could have bought a new one or not.
I tell clients that all the time. Clients will often come in and ask me, and it's a valid concern, what is this divorce going to cost me? Mm-hmm. And the answer I always give clients is, this divorce will cost you what you want it to cost you.
Right.
This divorce can be a very expensive divorce, and I'll be more than happy to accommodate you. Mm-hmm. Or it can be a very amicable divorce, and the expense will be much lower. And thank God I have plenty of clients, so I don't try to churn files, so to speak. I want clients to get the best results, and I want them to be happy with my services. So I try to streamline clients to, we want to streamline this. Don't make it personal. Keep the emotions out of it. Mm-hmm. Let's get you divorced and get you moving on with life. But that, going back to your point, divorce is dependent on people. When they fight, they spend more money. And it's an unfortunate situation because they're spending money over things that could probably be replaced fairly easily.
Well, let's talk about the hidden victim in all of this, especially where children are involved. So you have a divorcing couple and they're fighting over the couch, and in their minds, that's what's relevant in that moment. That's what's really important for them. But they have children at the same time. Surely the children are the biggest victims in situations like this, Mario.
Children are always a victim. And unfortunately, if you don't take the emotions and you don't take the personal baggage out of divorce, the children suffer more. Because oftentimes what parents will do is they'll try to pit the children against each other.
Right.
And it's an unfortunate situation. And I've often told my clients, up until the divorce, he or she was a good father or good mother. Suddenly, now that you're getting divorced, didn't make them a bad father or bad mother. So, again, they may be angry about infidelity. They may be angry about spousal abuse. They could be angry about something else. But the focus always has to be on the children and what's good for them. And you'll find, at least me in my practice, you'll find most children love their mothers and fathers to death. So it's already hard enough on the children to see their parents fighting, but it's even harder when the children are put into the middle of it. I've had clients where one party will end parenting time too soon or not allow the other party to see the children, only to spite the other one. And that's completely inappropriate. Whenever I've had a client suggest, I don't want my ex to see my son or our son, I often, right off the bat, I try to nip that right in the bud. And I say, no, the child has every right to see their parent, and you have no right to prevent that. Absent a parent who is absolutely abusive, most parents are fairly normal human beings that just love their children. So again, emotions and personality issues have to be separated from the children. It's critical that the children be kept in a safe environment at all times.
Okay, Mario, briefly, how many years have you been a family law attorney?
I've been practicing 15 years now.
So would it be safe to say that you've dealt with hundreds of cases?
Oh, absolutely. I've dealt with hundreds of cases, incredible amount of cases, and every personality type out there.
Right. So when you think back to all of those cases that you've helped the divorcing couples in, is this something that you're still passionate about? I mean, how do you feel when you wake up in the morning and you've got a full day ahead of you of clients who are in this unfortunate position of going through a divorce? How does Mario feel on a day like that?
Generally, to be very frank with you, generally I feel very good because I feel that part of my practice is helping people move on with their lives. And because I've been in practice 15 years, one of the most satisfying things I've seen is particularly based on my advice when I tell clients, don't keep the emotions out of the divorce. Don't use your emotions to to influence the children. Let the children have their parents. And one of the happiest things I see is when I see families moving forward. I've had clients come back to me many years later with their grown children. Now the children, maybe I divorced them when they were 10. Now they come in and they're 20 years old. And the child is well adjusted. The parent is well adjusted. And the family's moved forward. So divorce doesn't have to be the end of the road for anybody by any means. So while I said generally I'm fairly satisfied, there are cases that I find very frustrating. But I work just as hard on those as I do on the other ones.
Okay, so that's a little bit about the personal side of yourself, Mario. Just share a little bit about your background, especially in terms of your education and your experience as it relates to the topic of family law.
Well, I grew up, briefly, I grew up in Hudson County, New Jersey. It's where I maintain my practice. I studied economics and finance at Rutgers University. I graduated in 1999, and I graduated law school from Seton Hall Law School in 2002, and I've been practicing ever since. Once I graduated, I clerked for the Honorable Marguerite Simon. She was a judge in the New Jersey Superior Court, and I found that my experience with her was invaluable. I thereafter went to work for another law firm, David Kessler and Associates. He taught me a lot of the ins and outs, and thereafter I opened my own office because I felt that I was prepared enough to help other people, and thankfully it's been very successful.
So Mario, I'd like you to picture the kinds of divorcing couples who come to you for your guidance, and they're wanting to know more about, not taking their divorce so personal. They're wanting to know how to figure all of that out. So with that in mind, Mario, what final thoughts would you like to leave them with before we close out with our last question for today?
Generally, and I'll give you the generalization, what I often tell my clients. When it comes to assets, I literally tell them, I give them a notepad before we start our session. I give them a notepad and I tell them, write down all your assets. And then I literally, when I go through it with them, I explain to them that a divorce is a lot like a business dissolution. Half of the assets are going to go to one side and half of the assets are going to go to the other. That's right off the bat. And then I tell them, children, as I indicated to you, don't put the children in the middle of this situation. It's a very sad situation already. Don't make the children. And usually most of my clients will streamline that and they'll understand that, and we'll have a very smooth divorce.
Thanks for that, Mario. So if there is somebody out there who does want to know more, who wants to get in contact with you, how would they be able to find you? How would they be able to reach out to you, Mario?
A couple different ways, and I appreciate that question. My telephone number is 201-869-9898. My website is www.blanchlegal.com. It's BLANCHLEGAL.com. And my office is in New Jersey, and I practice in both New Jersey and New York.
Excellent. Are you on LinkedIn as well, Mario?
I am on LinkedIn as well. And I often post articles on LinkedIn. So clients are free to read the articles and research a little bit more if they're interested.
And I can second that, because that's how we found you in the first place, on LinkedIn and reading some of your articles. So I do recommend, if you are interested in contacting Mario, that you also check out his LinkedIn profile. So, that's about it, Mario. We've run out of time. So for the listeners out there, whether you're driving in your car or tuning in from home, or maybe you're out for a walk and you're listening in on your personal headset, whatever the case may be, it is time for us to go today. Once more, that was family law attorney Mario Blanch. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Mario. You have certainly demonstrated, hands down, without a doubt, that you're a true educator and advocate for your client's success. So thank you so much, Mario.
Thank you for having me on today.
You're so welcome, my friend. And I'd also like to say a huge thank you to you, the listener. Without you, we wouldn't be here. So thank you for joining us on this very insightful and informative discussion with one of the leading family law attorneys in West New York today. Again, his name was Mario Blanch. Don't forget his name. Make sure you check him out. Give him a call. Visit him on LinkedIn. Whatever you do, I'm sure you'll be in a great place to take your first steps towards addressing your situation. So again, my name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading divorce professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.